A deadly crash in the Bronx raising concerns over illegal street racing.
And residents in the Northeast Bronx fighting to keep a men's shelter from opening in their neighborhood. So joining us this morning to address these public safety concerns is Bronx Borough President Vanessa Gibson. So good morning, and thanks so much for always taking the time to be with us.
Yes, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too. So let's talk about that early morning accident. 2 people dead, one still in the hospital. A lot of folks that live in that neighborhood say that area is known for illegal drag racing. They said possibly that driver involved in this accident was doing donuts.
Right.
What can be done to change all of this and make sure that doesn't happen
It's so sad, and let me send my heart and thoughts and prayers out to, we lost a 15-year-old young lady and a 21-year-old young man, and one is hospitalized. I don't believe any were from the Bronx, but they were here in the borough. And the South Bronx, the Hunts Point, Longwood community, we've obviously worked with Community Board 2 and the leadership there, the elected officials. It's really about enforcement. This unfortunate vehicle crash happened about 3 a.m., late night hours. And so we will work with the NYPD to see what enforcement and patrol that we can provide. But I think a lot of the young adults engage in this in an amusing way. They think it's fun, the donuts and, the drag racing. And we've seen this happen during the summer season when it's warm outside and you have an audience. So it's very disturbing, and we're praying for just healing for the passenger that's hospitalized. And we will work with the 401 Precinct, Patrol Borough Bronx on stepping up enforcement, because I know residents are very concerned.
Yeah. Do they have cameras in that area also?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, we have cameras all over the Bronx.
Okay, because there was a time when they were talking about how cameras turn off at a certain time.
Yes. Some of our cameras obviously are limited with time, but most of the NYPD Argus white box cameras are 24/7.
Okay, good to know.
Good to know. Speaking of the frigid cold, there are so many residents enduring the frigid temperatures without any heat in their buildings. They've called 311 to no avail. They've had no relief and no help from the city. So what are we doing here? How do we let those people live like this, including one of them is a U.S. vet?
Right. Unacceptable. New Yorkers have an expectation to have sufficient heat and hot water. Every year we see a significant number of 311 calls coming into the system from the Bronx, from residents, from tenants. We have to do better when it comes to management, landlords, and property owners being held accountable and providing sufficient heat. I encourage residents to still call 311 because we need the documented calls, but reaching out to elected officials, the community board. When we get calls to our ombudsman unit at our office, we follow up with the landlord and management companies, because we need people to call. Children, older adults. This is sometimes the season when we see a lot of fires that are related to space heaters and other options that people use because they don't have sufficient heat. And we're talking about working class New Yorkers that deserve better. So I encourage anyone in our borough, if you're experiencing that, where you're calling 311, not getting a response, reach out to our office, 718-590-3500, and we will follow up.
What kind of penalties are those landlords facing?
So I think it depends on the type of building. Obviously, many of them are government subsidies and government regulated. And then obviously DOB and HPD and enforcement. Inspectors coming out, looking at the heating system, looking at how many cases are coming from a building. And obviously there are fines that are at a different graduated scale. But ultimately, we don't even want to get to that point. We want to make sure that landlords are doing their part. But if and when we have to, I think the city and the administration must step up and make sure that there's greater oversight and accountability on the parts of landlords.
All right. Well, switching gears now, let's talk. Let's look back to that retaining wall that collapsed. I know that you were asking to bring back the funding for building inspectors. Where have you gotten with that? Have you made any progress with the city? Have they responded?
So yes, we've been in conversations with DOB Commissioner Jimmy Otto, who's a friend, former borough president of Staten Island, as well as Deputy Mayor Mira Joshi, who oversees DOB. And we are adamant about making sure that any vacancies when it comes to building inspectors are filled. Now, we're working with DOB during this budget season because I saw the mayor make a significant number of restorations to NYPD, FDNY, sanitation, DYCD, Parks Department, which are great. Don't forget about Department of Buildings. When we have retaining walls falling and collapsing, buildings that are collapsing like what happened in the Bronx on December 11th, many of those residents are still not back in. We have to make sure that DOB is sufficiently staffed, because the expectation is when people call, they hear the building making noise, they see cracks in the building, the facade work, structural engineers making sure the certifications are appropriate and accurate, the data, all of the paperwork by local law 11, facade work. We have to make sure that there's a process that double checks their work, checks and balances. So we're going to be working, you know, obviously just, you know, ramping up the messaging and using media to really talk about the Department of Buildings. But it's been encouraging, and we are having conversations with the administration and the deputy mayor.
All right. There are some members of the community in the Bronx Community Board 11 fighting against this men's shelter. What's your stance, and where do we stand?
So this men's shelter we inherited from the de Blasio administration. I still don't understand the justification for building out a 200-bed men's facility 3 years out. I don't know where the population is today. Community Board 11, among many others, everyone has to do their fair share, but I understand the concern. We have a lot of shelters in residential neighborhoods today, all across the city of New York and right in the Bronx. And I want to make sure that there is a fair and equitable distribution. And so we're working with DHS, the Department of Homeless Services. It's already underway. This is something we inherited that happened prior to me serving as borough president, but there were other projects in CB11 that we're trying to stop and trying to make sure that we can repurpose for what we believe is a better idea, like women's health, women's pavilion, a birthing center, a blood center at Jacoby Hospital. Lots of great ideas we have because we want to make sure that everything is about access, opportunity, and equitable distribution.
You know, access is so critically important. Let's end things on a light note. The Bronx getting the very first free observatory.
Amazing, amazing. Shout out to the Amateur Astronomers Association for working with the Parks Department and Bronx High School of Science.
That's so great.
It's going to be about 9 to 10 feet. Jerome Park Reservoir in the Northwest Bronx, and it's a partnership with the students at Bronx Science. And we believe that this has been several years in the making, so I want to recognize the Amateur Association for their work. Construction will start in March. It'll take a couple of weeks, and we're excited. The weather will be nice, it won't be cold, and we can open up the first public observatory that's free for all residents of the Bronx and the city of New York. 7 days a week it'll be open.
Oh, do you know what the hours are that people can check it out?
Not sure yet, but I'm sure we'll get that information. But the fact that it's open 7 days a week is amazing.
Oh,
and it's small.
awesome.
They said it's the size of a phone booth. You know, we don't have phone booths anymore, but I feel like it's the first and we have an opportunity to expand.
Yeah, everyone gets an opportunity. That's
Absolutely.
wonderful.
Very excited.
We'll make sure to visit when the kids do.
Yes, we will. We will.
Well, thanks again for coming in.
Thank
Always
you.
great to see
Thank you again.